Welcome to Cultivated Live for Monday, March 25th. I'm Jay Rosenthal, co-founder of Cultivated Media and host of Cultivated Live. And since we launched, our goal at Cultivated has been to be cannabis industry first, providing the industry with the most important, insightful, and useful information to our audience. And while we certainly would love for you to subscribe to our daily newsletter, we also wanted to meet the industry where you are, which includes LinkedIn and YouTube. So we add this daily live stream a little over a month ago, and we hope it's going well for you. And today we're joined by Graydon Welbourn of our partners at White Ash Group. We'll bring up Graydon in a minute, but first, here's what's driving the cannabis news today. The final cannabis hurdle in Germany has been jumped. Germany's legalization bill and one final hurdle to be cleared to get the official thumbs up, and that happened on Friday. The reactions were swift from both cannabis leaders and cannabis capital markets. Among others who had something to say, Curaleaf's Boris Jordan had this to say on Friday about legalization in Germany. Listen for shots across U.S. politicians' bow. Today's passage of the Cannabis Act in Germany represents a watershed moment for patients and adult use consumers alike. This legislation has set the standard for future cannabis regulatory programs across all of Europe and serves as a wake-up call to U.S. politicians and our regulatory agencies who continue to stall progress. Hold that thought for a moment. And while home grows will go live April 1st and cannabis clubs kick in July, it was Canopy Growth stock that got a kickstart on Friday, going up 68+% in Friday's trading. You can see the chart from Friday's trading on cultivated.news. And from advocacy in the halls of Congress to shouting on the campaign trail, what's happening? Well, cannabis reform is always on the front burner, certainly for the cannabis industry, and cannabis reform has finally taken a front burner in the nation's capital, so much so that prominent politicians are using their pro-cannabis reform platform to sign up political followers and potential donors. On Friday, it was Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer's turn to hit Politico's inboxes doing this. Now, in the past month, let's go back a bit. It's been a race to see how pro-cannabis reform as possible for Washington insiders. We had 12 Democratic senators pushing the DEA to deschedule cannabis. We had Senator Schumer saying he was making it a priority to pass safer banking before the November election. We had a president use 12 seconds in his State of the Union to push for cannabis reform and talk about his own reform measures. And the vice president held a cannabis justice roundtable at the White House. We also had President Biden talking about on the campaign trail. We had Senator Elizabeth Warren tweeting on X. Did you tweet on X? Tweeting on X that cannabis should be descheduled, and much, much more. Now, in an appeal to supporters and others, Chuck Schumer is looking to get cannabis reform voters to sign a petition on safer banking with an appeal that says this. Seems like it could be written by one of us. Can you imagine running a business without being able to deposit your money anywhere? That's the reality for law-abiding marijuana businesses across the country. In states where marijuana is legal, these businesses have extremely limited access to basic banking services like deposits or lines of credit. They're forced to keep massive amounts of cash on hand, a danger for everyone involved. It sounds like the lobbying is working on the hills of Congress. Now, here's why it matters. There appears to be a shift from cannabis reform advocates in Congress being vocal on specific policies and specific settings, namely the halls of Washington. Now, cannabis reform advocates in Congress are much, much louder. Could it be that our leaders in Washington read the same polls that we do, that 70% of voters support legalization? Well, we're all eagerly awaiting the DEA's rescheduling decision, obviously. Perhaps safer banking is coming up in the Senate soon. But whether those two things happen quickly or not, one thing is certain: cannabis will be on the front and center of the campaign trail between now and November. And frankly, the Cultivated team is here for it. One update note from New York. Will Barclay, the leader of the New York State Assembly Republican Conference, posted on X on Friday his displeasure with both the rollout of the cannabis market in New York, as well as Governor Kathy Hochul's approach to reform. In a statement he linked to on X, he said, New York is one of the many states to permit sale of cannabis. Sure. Yet instead of prioritizing applicants with qualifications and experience required to succeed, the OCM priorities applicants with drug offenses and criminal histories. Only in New York are criminal records more appealing than records of proven success. Too many strong applicants have been boxed out due to this system, and the cracks are beginning to show. Pretty safe assumption that Will Barclay is not a fan of the card regulations, but that is what is driving the cannabis news today. Now, In a minute, with some back-end technical stuff that I will need to do, I'll bring on Graydon Welbourn, the managing partner of White Ash Group. White Ash Group, of course, is our partner in our Sunday People Moves newsletter, highlighting the people and human capital trends driving the industry. Give me one moment, and I will bring up Graydon. Graydon, good morning.
Morning, Jay.
We've been doing the People Moves newsletter for maybe a month now. We're getting great response. You're getting great response as well?
Oh yeah, it's really good. It's a lot of chats about it. Everyone's noticing. It's been great. I'm very excited that we finally did this.
Yeah, from the Cultivated News perspective, it is great to like centralize all the things about people in the industry, because that
White Ash Group there logo.
I need to get one of those, and then I can wear it when we
talk.
Yeah,
I'll get you one.
Okay, I like it. I'll send you my address after. But it is good both from a reader perspective, and we're obviously reader first, but also to be able to like think about it as all during the week to release on Sunday. Like, what are the key things the industry is thinking about in terms of people, hiring, staffing, that sort of thing. See the moves that people are actually making, which I think is exciting. Get your thoughts about sort of the key trends in the industry, and then be able to sort of do listings so people can actually find jobs. So I just love doing it. So I appreciate the partnership and the team over there for making it happen. And then the last newsletter, so yesterday, we put our second mention of a survey you guys are doing. Tell us about the survey, sort of the sort of outcome you want, and sort of what you think the impact will be.
Yeah, so it's a salary survey that is meant to end up being a salary guide that we're going to be able to provide to essentially everyone who wants to look at it. This isn't one of those things where we're not going to make it gated, or there's not going to be any, payment required. We're trying to make the industry aware of what's happening, to in terms of pay with, competitors and people down the street and what they're paying, and give opportunity for people who are looking for jobs to actually have a benchmark of what they should be getting paid. Because, you can Google these things, but it's really tough with the cannabis industry because we don't have all of the data. It's still a nascent industry, as we all know. And, if you're just Googling something and salary, you're going to get results pulled in from, alcohol, tobacco, all these different industries, at pharma and
ag,
and exactly. And even if you're a key account manager and you put that into Google and you do salary, you're getting maybe a couple Glassdoor results. You're not really going to get a strong average of the cannabis industry within your province or state. So that's what we're trying to achieve here. I think it's really important. We've always wanted to have a salary guide, and it's just when the industry is changing so fast, it's hard to know when to actually implement something like this. So you have to kind of wait for a bit of stagnation, I feel like. So, we've been in the industry for 5 years since it started in Canada, and so I think that this is the time for it to roll out.
Yeah, it's interesting. It seemed to me, and we'll put a link to sort of how you can find the survey and fill it out, whether you are an employee or an HR professional, because I think there's sort of two variations. But it seems to me the value is I think you described sort of two-sided. One, if I am a company doing some hiring, I want to know where the industry is, where my sort of companies like for like are hiring at certain levels and what that salary looks like. But certainly as an employee perspective and looking for jobs, like I want to know, is the job I'm looking at competitive vis-a-vis everybody else? So it seems to be the rare thing where both from employee and a hiring perspective, that transparency or that knowledge is actually helpful for both sides. Is that what you're finding?
Yeah, exactly. And we get calls a lot of the time from people that maybe we're not even actually technically working with. I have a friend from a different company call and say, "Hey, I'm about to get a promotion, and this is what they're looking at. Does that even make sense?" And oftentimes it doesn't. So it's oftentimes wrong. So there's definitely an opportunity for everyone to get further educated. And we all know the cannabis industry doesn't pay the best. I kind of figure that if you're in the cannabis industry, you're here for the long term and here for various different reasons. You can go make more money in pharma if you want, but it's still, even so, people really want to know, what's fair. I think people are just looking for fair. I don't think anyone's looking for anything ridiculous or unreasonable. Everyone just wants to be paid fairly and consistently and in accordance to the value that they do bring. And so I think gathering this data is going to be really important. the response rate has been really, really solid. I mean, obviously part of it is because of Cultivated. You guys have such a great reach, and we're very grateful for that. And but it's great to see people actually excited about this. I think that you know, it's different in the approach that I know some other companies have done, where they're just looking at their internal data.
Right.
We have our own internal data, but we wanted to open it up because we don't work with absolutely everyone in the industry. So we want to touch as many corners as we can.
Yeah, it's interesting because you mentioned some other industries and those other alcohol, tobacco, pharma, agriculture, like those have, 25, 50, 100-year histories, and you can track
Yeah,
those trends over time, that type of thing. But we're really, we feel like we've been in it a long time and it's been 5 years and a lot can
yeah, it's
change. And,
nothing.
and
Yeah.
it's like, it's nothing, but I think it is sort of this survey and the like, it's like the trappings of every other industry are catching up in cannabis, right? Because
Hmm.
there's value from an employer and employee perspective. There's value to know this thing over time. Like, you do it this year, you'll know, do a survey next year, you'll see up or down, you'll be able to collect trends. But it is interesting to
Hmm.
sort of see that. I almost wonder as well, you're thinking back 5 years ago, the industry, yes, overall may pay lower than sort of other industries. But I wonder when new markets open up, whether it's in the States or here in Canada 5 years ago, there has to be this draw to get people to leave their very steady jobs to come in.
Yeah.
I imagine that puts price pressure on sort of hiring people.
Yeah, I mean, I chuckle because I've seen it all, which is these ridiculous, absurd salaries. You know, all the way from the top, all the way to the bottom. There was just, it was the green rush at the start, and then things have sort of, I think, settled a bit. We're still seeing that in the States, where companies are willing to throw money at things. We're seeing that in Australia as well. There's a ton of investment happening there right now. It almost feels like Canada 2.0 from 5 years ago, where it's just everyone's got million square foot facilities, and they've
They're not
all
going to
have
need those.
yachts.
Just if
And they're,
anybody's listening, you're
I'm
not
trying
going to
to,
need those.
yeah, if you're listening to me or this
Yeah.
podcast, please do not make a million square
Yeah.
foot facility. It's not needed. We have many examples in Canada to show you,
You,
many
you can come see
graveyards.
them and buy them if you like.
Yeah, you can buy them for nothing. But yeah, the you know these crazy salaries are sort of a normal trend. I think. I mean, you see it in every kind of new industry. But when things, but it's a negative too, because as a company, when you're starting somewhere, it's so hard to go back. You can't compress a salary. People don't. They're not okay with that. So you, to this guide is going to be really important, I think, as a resource to when people are benchmarking and able to like actually plan and forecast things. Because I mean, the salaries do get ratcheted up every year, but if you're starting at the incorrect place, whether that's at the bottom or at the top, it's hard to course correct.
Yeah, I actually hadn't thought about it. I'm thinking about it from a, like a more mature company. This is helpful to sort of benchmark where you are vis-a-vis that. But also, if you're starting up and relatively new, it is
Mm-hmm.
also helpful to say
Mm-hmm.
this is what the industry is paying now. We may need to go above that to get people to leave their jobs, but not 25% more. Like you could actually benchmark that against sort of survey
Mm-hmm.
results. I hadn't thought of that, but
Yep.
certainly that is a factor as well.
Yeah, yeah. And I think just the ability, I mean, a lot of cannabis is so murky that if we can have any sort of benchmark for anything, I think it's just useful because we're all just sort of like swimming through these murky waters and trying to figure things out. So if you can have like a bit of light, um, to shine in on some, difficult information. And a lot of times too, it's, these, manufacturers, LPs, producers, they're not, these are the things that they're not sharing with each other. Yeah, sometimes they'll be in the same room, but they're not talking about how much they're paying people, because then they go, oh wait, maybe I'll lose my guy if they find,
Right.
what I mean, that
Right.
that kind of information is.
That's the thing. It's like there's benefit in providing it, assuming it's sort
Mhm.
of washed of their name. It's also the benefit of
Yes.
receiving it as long as it's washed of everybody else's name.
Yes, exactly, and that is an important point you brought up. This is completely anonymous. We don't need any names. We don't need any company, information either. It's just simply what you're getting paid and what your role is. So, and then a few other details like location, and
Yeah.
we threw in a few other things like job satisfaction and maybe some of the responsibilities you have, but those aren't really necessary. It's more just about hardcore data.
Well, we'll put a link to how anybody, whether you're an HR professional or an employee, to fill out the salary survey. We'll put it in the link in the show notes. Graydon, as always, thank you so much for the partnership. Thank you for sharing today. And we'll get more and more people to fill that out, because as it gets more robust, it gets better for everybody. But thanks for your time this morning.
That's right. Thank you so much, Jay. Appreciate it. You have a good rest of your day.
You too. And that's it for today's Cultivated Live. We encourage you to subscribe to our daily newsletter at cultivated.news. Follow us on LinkedIn or smash the subscribe button on YouTube. We will see you back here tomorrow, 10 a.m. Eastern, right here on LinkedIn and YouTube for our United States of Cannabis segment with our friend Brad Spirison, the founder and CEO of Grown In. We'll let you know then who we're going to be talking to. We have some asks out to talk top of the moment politics with you and cannabis. Have a great Monday, everybody. Remember, buy cannabis from your local dispensary.